Hey, in today's video I'm going to paint a portrait in gouache and I will answer some of the questions that people ask me on Instagram. So let's start. So for the past 1 month I painted mostly with watercolors, and so I thought, just like my watercolor palette, why not just add more colors to my gouache palette for more variety and convenience. It helps to get the color I want in less amount of time and adds more variation, so why not, right? I tried to paint a bit differently this time, like without any underpainting and just on the white paper directly. So the questions that people asked are about me as an artist and about painting and art in general. Okay, so I'm just going to jump on the questions. So my first question is, what inspired you to paint? Well, to be honest, I don't have a real fancy story. Okay, so let me tell you how I became an artist. As a child, I was kind of average in terms of creativity and was never even that interested in art. As a whole, the subject never intrigued me. But when I was close to completing school, like when I was in 12th standard, I just stopped preparing for whatever I was doing and started with sketching and drawing. And it was so random, like I don't even know why I even started. But I think good things happen randomly sometimes. Yeah, so I would say my intuition was my inspiration that time, and painting was fun and I kept practicing. So you can do whatever you feel like and start whenever you want to, basically. What art means to you? I'll say it changed me as a person, and now I have a different perspective towards the world. It helped me express my personality through my work. It gave me a lot of confidence, like a lot of confidence. It's like therapy. Whenever I feel a bit low, I just paint and I'm all good. Gave me an identity, a purpose. This is what I also do professionally, so of course it means a lot to me, if not everything. And I'm grateful that I started and trusted the process. How long have you painted for, and did you start out in gouache or watercolor? It's been a little over 7 years. Watercolors, they were one of my first painting mediums, and gouache I just started this year. Everybody is familiar with watercolors, so they are less intimidating to start with. I had the Sakura Koi field sketch box paint set thing, which I thought was really cool because I never used good art materials before these. Even though it's a student grade watercolor set, but it's really good for its price. How to choose right hues while painting from a reference? Well, you need 3 primaries plus black and white, and sometimes burnt umber, which I don't use with gouache. The colors I mentioned are must. The rest depends upon your reference or the subject you're painting, because this palette has some limitations. Like, I cannot mix a really pure orange or turquoise or any neon like bright color, basically. So you just have to include that paint in your palette. Would like to know, how do you mix high, mid and lower tones without black? With watercolors you can. In fact, I have never used the black to mix anything in my palette. For gouache, I would highly recommend using black, as it's really hard to mix darkest darks without black, and also black tones down highly saturated colors, giving a more natural color like the ones we have on in our skin. So without black in watercolors, you can mix transparent greens and red like viridian and alizarin crimson, or ultramarine blue and burnt umber, which is a classic combination for mixing black. How do you know what color to start with on hair, etc.? I'll make a video on this, like how to paint hair or something like that in future. Do you ever worry you can't fix the beginning darkness if it's too dark? Can you fix it later? Well, I do worry, but mostly about what if it's not dark enough instead of what if it's too dark. This question is of course related to watercolors because there isn't much room for mistakes. No, I use white gouache for my highlights, but I always paint my paintings in such a way where I know when to add what and how not to make things look too dark or light. For midtones, be more careful. I personally start with darks so that I can have something to compare my lighter values to. you may not be able to fix bigger areas, so just be mindful of your values and keep comparing so that you won't go overboard with them. How do you make harmony in your color mixing, and how do you neutralize your colors? Color harmony has a lot to do with color palette you're using. I think the more limited your palette is, the more neutralized and harmonized your painting looks. I mix in a very messy way. I have a small section for my lights and darks, and the mid-tones are just all over the palette, as I like to build my next color from the previous one to keep them connected, which also creates this harmonizing effect. Portraits anyway look more harmonized as they have the same base color but different value tones and saturation. How to make color richer, more vibrant? By not mudding them up. Okay, I was just kidding. So, I mean, keep them away from the colors that can neutralize or cut their saturation. And of course, away from blacks, as it's the ultimate killer of vibrancy. And that is also a reason why people don't like to include direct black, like a solid black in their palette. Mix with clean brushes, keep the area separated from other colors, especially their complementaries, or just use it directly from the tube, because sometimes you need that kind of untouched color in your painting. Can you touch on how you work with complementary colors in your paintings? Well, skin tones and skin in general have more warm tones like orange, red, brown, peach. So using hints of blue, green, purple in your skin tones or as accent colors works nicely and add more variation and a kind of drama as they are complementary. Painting from which genre or movement do you love the most? Well, my work is deeply inspired by Impressionism, and that's why I admire Claude Monet for bringing such a fresh outlook towards traditional way of painting, which was like super smooth, defined, and sometimes kind of overworked. In terms of portraiture and figurative arts, I'll say John Singer Sargent. Sargent's work is hands down my favorite. Like the amount of abstraction combined with impressionism and still looking realistic is amazing. Also, Realism by Richard Schmidt. A couple of years back, I read his book, Alla Prima, Everything I Know About Painting. And I'll say that if somebody will ask me one book that can change your perspective and technique as an artist, this is the one. Just go for this. If you find this book anywhere, just grab it and read it. I'll say you will thank me later. I have one more book for color theory, which is Color and Light by James Kearney, and I just go through that book every couple of months, and that book is it's like a treasure if you're interested in knowledge and not just painting. It's a treasure. Both the books are beautiful visually, and if you can understand what you're reading, and of course if you're practicing enough, you can learn painting by yourself. It's not that. Any reason you prefer flat brush over round? I use flats for covering more area faster and small round ones for details. It's useful to start with big flat brushes to lay down your big shapes and values. Also flats can give better clean edges. How do you choose your colors when you paint? If you're talking about color palette, it's almost always the same colors, but if you are talking about the colors I'm adding on the painting, then I'll say that I start with the colors I see that are most dominating ones. And sometimes I like to exaggerate the green and blue in my darks while painting, as they are complementary to skin tones. Your opinion on color red? Okay, so it is a very dramatic, bright color. Though yellow is also bright, but it's lighter in value, and maybe that's why it cannot create the same impact. Impact is red, which is also really bright, but its value is closer to midtones and sometimes darker, because midtones are the base colors mostly, so that's why it has more complete impact visually. It has this passionate aura to it, like just add a wash of red on a simple sketch and it will change the whole mood of the painting. How many paintings do you create a week? I'm not sure about the number, but I paint almost every single day. Will you do an eye painting workshop? I can try and take this as an idea for my tutorial for beginners kind of video, which I'll post next month. Okay, so that's all for this video, and if you have any more questions you can comment them down below or DM me on my Instagram. I hope you like this video and see you in my next one.